Have you ever had that feeling, and I mean, really, truly felt it in your bones, where you are just absolutely drowning in work?
Oh, every day.
You know, you're dealing with the endless emails, the back-to-back meetings, you're managing projects, handling all the life admin.
Right.
And yet, when you finally collapse into bed, you realize you haven't actually accomplished anything that mattered, anything that moved you toward your real goals.
You've been running at 100 miles an hour all day.
Exactly. And you haven't moved an inch forward on your biggest priorities.
That is, I think, the defining struggle of the 21st century professional, isn't it? We have all been there. And this is what the sources we've examined for this deep dive diagnose as the busy trap.
The busy trap. I love that name for it.
It's perfect because we live in a culture that has profoundly, and I'd say dangerously confused, frantic movement with genuine, measurable progress.
And it's a self-perpetuating problem. It
Yeah.
feeds on itself. We see it everywhere, especially like among young professionals and students.
For sure.
There is this weird, almost compulsory cultural thing where people wear their busyness like a badge of honor.
Oh, I'm so swamped.
Right. We signal virtue by replying to emails at midnight. If your schedule isn't packed, if you don't look overwhelmed, then you must not be ambitious enough, or maybe even worse, not important enough.
And the sources we synthesize for this discussion argue that that entire philosophy is not just misguided, it's actively counterproductive.
It's the high-speed lane directly to burnout, not to success.
Precisely. That confusion, that fundamental belief that the sheer volume of tasks on your plate correlates with success is the single biggest barrier to achieving truly high performance and critically long-term sustainable growth.
You're just spinning your wheels.
You're just spinning your wheels, but making a lot of noise while you do it. You're looking at the sheer amount of output, but you miss the quality and the focus completely.
So our mission in this deep dive is really straightforward and highly actionable. We're here to give you the essential science-backed strategies to help you stop doing more things.
The non-essential things.
The non-essential things, and instead start doing only the right things.
Which brings us to the core philosophy outlined in the material. Essentialism.
Right.
And we should frame this carefully. This isn't minimalism or just, simple time-saving tricks. It's the disciplined pursuit of less. We are not advocating for laziness. We're advocating for radical, ruthless focus.
I think this is the blueprint you need. It's about optimizing performance and stress reduction at the same time, which sounds impossible.
So they're two sides of the same coin.
So we're going to look at 3 pillars. Reclaiming your time and energy, building a genuinely resilient and, valuable career structure, and then designing a lifestyle that doesn't just tolerate growth, but actively supports it.
All without sacrificing your mental or physical well-being. It's about building a fundamentally better system, rather than just forcing yourself to work harder within a system that is, inherently broken.
Okay, let's unpack this and dive immediately into the first major area of optimization: how we approach productivity itself. Because if we want to achieve that radical focus, we need a fundamental shift in perspective.
A total shift.
We need to move away from focusing on time and start focusing on energy.
This is truly one of the biggest paradigm shifts required for anyone looking for sustainable success. It's huge. For decades, every productivity book, every hack, it focused entirely on time management.
Oh yeah, the planners, the scheduling blocks.
Blocking time in calendars, scheduling, prioritizing lists. But the fundamental error, as our sources point out, is that time is fixed.
Right. You get 24 hours a day. That is the universal constant. The CEO, the entry-level student, the stay-at-home parent, everyone gets the same 24 hours.
You cannot negotiate with the clock. You can't. And trying to cram more hours in just leads to diminishing returns. It always does.
But energy.
That is the variable you can absolutely control, modulate, and optimize.
That's where you have leverage.
That's your leverage. You can be fully present and laser-focused for 3 high-quality hours of deep work, or you can drag yourself through 12 hours of distracted, low-quality, interrupted effort.
And we've all lived that 12-hour day.
We have. And when you realize that the quality of your attention is the real resource, the person who mastered their energy wins the productivity race every single time.
What's fascinating here is that the fundamental error we make is focusing purely on those time slots. The the duration of the work, when the quality of attention we bring to those slots is the real bottleneck.
Totally.
If you sit down for 2 hours to work on a complex strategy, but you are mentally depleted and constantly context switching, that's just 2 hours of staring blankly into the distance. It's an exercise in frustrating fatigue.
You're just performing productivity. You're not actually being productive. And this realization leads us directly into the science of harnessing your internal rhythms for true deep work.
Okay, let's talk about the ultradian rhythm. I think a lot of people have heard of the Pomodoro technique, the 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off structure.
Sure, it's very popular.
And it's a great starter tool for sure. Maybe the training wheels for managing focus. But for genuinely deep intellectual work, the kind that actually moves the needle on your career, the Pomodoro is often, well, it's not enough.
It's not. That's because it fails to align with the natural biological cycles of peak cognitive performance. Our sources highlight the clear science on this.
What is the science?
The human brain can only sustain genuine, deep, effortful focus, the kind that requires complex problem-solving or synthesizing ideas or sustained creative flow, for approximately 90 minutes.
90, not 25.
90. After that 90-minute mark, your body and brain enter a natural trough.
Yeah.
Your ability to concentrate plummets, stress hormones like cortisol start to rise, and micro errors increase. You get less accurate, more tired.
So if the Pomodoro is the starter, the sources are saying we have to graduate to something longer. Why those 90-minute blocks? What's so special about that number?
It comes down to basic physiology. Our bodies cycle through energy expenditure and recovery in these 90 to 120-minute periods, and not just when we sleep, but when we're awake, too. It's a fundamental rhythm.
So it's baked into our hardware.
It is absolutely baked in. To maintain peak concentration, you need peak energy flow. After about 90 minutes, your blood glucose levels start to drop, your brain starts signaling fatigue, a chemical called adenosine builds up, and your attention just starts to wane.
So pushing through from minute 91 to 120 is just working against the tide. You're fighting yourself.
You're fighting a losing battle against your own biology. So the deep work strategy here is to forget the arbitrary 25-minute timer and start aiming for the full 90-minute blocks.
You're essentially working with your brain's natural cycles, not trying to force some random schedule onto it.
That's the core mandate. And this is the critical part. That 90-minute block must be followed by a non-negotiable 20-minute restorative break.
And the word restorative is key here, right? This is where most people fail.
Completely. This is not 20 minutes to check your email inbox, or scroll social media, or start organizing your desk.
Why not? I mean, it feels like a break.
Because that introduces something the guide calls attention residue.
Okay, before reading these sources, I always thought checking email for 5 minutes was a productive break. But this attention residue, what exactly is that, and why is it the enemy of our next 90-minute block?
Attention residue is essentially the cognitive drag left over when you switch quickly between tasks. Even if you only glanced at a few headlines or emails during your 20-minute break, your brain is still partially occupied or residually thinking about that previous task or the new stimulus.
So it's like a computer program that you've closed, but it's still running in the background, eating up RAM.
That is a perfect analogy. It's draining your mental energy on background processing. So if you just glanced at that email from a client,
your brain is still subconsciously trying to solve the problem in that email while you're trying to start your next 90-minute block of focus.
Exactly. It prevents you from achieving that clean reset required for the next high-focus sprint. The 20 minutes must be complete rest. Get up, walk around outside, stretch, hydrate, listen to music.
Do something that involves zero cognitive engagement with the previous work or any future work.
Zero. It's the necessary pit stop to ensure the next 90-minute sprint is high octane.
So working with this rhythm means you might only get 3 or 4 truly deep blocks of work in a day, maybe 6 hours total.
Right.
But those 6 hours will be exponentially more productive and less stressful than 10 hours spent in a state of perpetually interrupted, low-grade, distracted focus. You maximize the quality of the effort you expend.
Speaking of maximizing quality and eliminating mental drag, let's talk about tackling the most unpleasant part of the day, because that often steals our focus even more effectively than email does.
Oh, I know where this is going.
This leads us to the delightfully disgusting concept of eat that frog.
From Mark Twain, the analogy is, if you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day.
Exactly. And when we translate that into practical productivity, the frog is the hardest, most complex, or most anxiety-inducing task on your list.
And I think the universal experience is knowing you have that task. Maybe it's writing that massive complex report, or calling an upset client, or having a difficult conversation with a teammate.
Or maybe it's just doing your expense reports, which you hate.
Oh, the expense reports. And you let it hang over your head all morning. It doesn't take up any physical time until you actually do it, but it takes up enormous amounts of mental energy, right?
It creates this pervasive, silent mental drag that poisons all the other work you are trying to do. It's always there in the back of your mind.
I can relate to that internal monologue. My brain is constantly running these background calculations, worrying about that looming task, making it almost impossible to access the calm you need for deep focus.
The brilliance of this eat that frog strategy is that you tackle that task first. Before checking email, before answering texts, before the day's inevitable smaller disruptions begin.
You commit your freshest, highest quality cognitive energy to the hardest task.
And once that biggest unpleasant task is done, and the sources confirm this psychological mechanism, you get this immediate, palpable rush.
It's that chemical reward, right, for overcoming the resistance. That immediate hit of dopamine for banking a significant win.
And this isn't just a feel-good moment. That dopamine rush immediately fuels your momentum and your productivity for the rest of the day. You've eliminated the anxiety anchor that was holding you back.
And you've released a huge amount of mental energy that was previously tied up in just dread and procrastination.
It sets a profoundly positive, high-energy tone for everything that follows. You've already done the hardest thing, so everything else feels easier and faster by comparison.
That makes perfect sense. But if we want to protect those valuable 90-minute blocks of deep work, and if we want to protect our morning momentum from being derailed, we have to talk about the greatest, most pervasive threat to modern concentration: the smartphone.
Ah, yes, the source explicitly calls the phone a productivity killer. And not just, a minor distraction. It's a killer.
So the third pillar of this essentialist productivity management is digital minimalism.
And the core rule provided is so strikingly simple, yet honestly revolutionary when you actually try to implement it.
Which is?
Turn off non-human notifications.
We need to spend a moment dwelling on that distinction, because this is often misunderstood.
It is. When we talk about essential notifications, we aren't talking about a phone call from your partner about a childcare emergency or a text message from a direct colleague about a sudden system outage.
Right. Those are human-to-human, real-time connections. They're important.
They are. We are talking about the constant manufactured urgency of pings, banners, and vibrations from apps, from news updates, weather forecasts, game reminders, promotional sales, or algorithmic suggestions from social media.
The phone is deliberately designed to make you feel like every single ping is urgent, essential, and demanding your attention right now.
It's an addiction machine.
But the reality is that if the notification isn't a direct, personalized message from a real person, it absolutely does not need to be seen immediately. Maybe it doesn't need to be seen at all.
Think about the massive mental cost of context switching that this behavior incurs. There are studies that show that even a brief interruption can take up to 23 minutes to fully recover from. 23 minutes.
Wow.
Every time that non-essential ping goes off, your brain registers it. Even if you manage to keep your hands off the phone, your focus is momentarily fractured, and you return to your task with that attention residue we just talked about.
So it becomes impossible to stay in that pristine 90-minute flow state.
Impossible. It's not just about silencing the sound. It's about eliminating the visual cue and silencing the internal habitual impulse to check. You are essentially installing a soundproof wall around your most complex thought work.
By ruthlessly reducing those non-essential interruptions, you are saving immense amounts of mental energy. You are building a protective bubble around your most valuable cognitive asset, your attention.
It's the ultimate act of essentialism in the digital age.
Yeah.
Saying no to the small, frequent demands so you can say yes wholeheartedly and without reservation to the singular, important task at hand.
This shift from time-focused, interrupted effort to energy-focused, deep work is so fundamental to daily success. But if we focus all that optimized energy on a career structure that is fragile or easily outsourced.
You're building your house on sand.
Exactly, we're building our house on sand. So we need to talk about how essentialism applies to making us professionally resilient in the long term.
Which brings us to a fascinating and crucial discussion about how to position yourself in a rapidly changing AI-driven economy.
If we look at the modern professional landscape, especially with the accelerated rise of AI and automation, career strategy has become profoundly more complex than it was even 5 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
It used to be that specialization was the key, becoming the absolute expert in one tiny, highly defined niche, but that's changing fast.
Yeah. The sources outline a real strategic dilemma here for anyone starting or building a career today. Being only a specialist is now inherently risky.
How so?
Well, if your single specialty can be easily standardized, automated, or outsourced, and AI is getting very, very good at that standardization, you become easily replaceable.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the other side?
Conversely, being a generalist, someone who knows a little bit about everything, is too vague. You lack a competitive advantage, and you offer low commodity value.
So we need something that captures the best of both worlds.
And that's the concept of the T-shaped professional. This is the critical framework for building a high-value, resilient career structure today.
Okay, T-shaped. Let's visualize the letter T.
It defines the two essential, non-negotiable dimensions of modern expertise, and you absolutely must possess both.
Let's start with the vertical bar of the T, the depth. What's that?
This is where you focus on mastering one single, deep, masterful skill. This is your core expertise, your unique signature.
And the source material is pretty aggressive on this. It says you should aim to be in the top 1% in this specific niche.
It does. And examples could be high-level complex data analysis, the ability to build and deploy specific machine learning models, or true expert-level creative storytelling and communication. It's your superpower.
So this vertical depth is what provides your competitive advantage. It's the reason a company hires you specifically over a general pool of candidates.
It signifies mastery. It solves complex, non-standard problems that generic knowledge just cannot touch. Without this depth, you're simply one of many competing against AI for commodity tasks.
Okay, so that's the deep vertical bar. Now for the horizontal bar, the breadth, the wide top of the T.
This signifies a basic functional understanding of many adjacent complementary skills.
So not being an expert, but being conversant.
Exactly, conversant, fluent. Having a high-level proficiency in things like basic coding principles, understanding marketing funnels, knowing key psychological concepts related to user behavior, having an eye for design aesthetics, or grasping the fundamentals of finance and budgeting.
You don't have to be the world's best at these areas.
Not at all. But you must be fluent in their language. You need to know enough to have an intelligent conversation with the experts in those fields.
So what does this all mean when you put them together? How does it work in practice?
The breadth, that horizontal bar, allows for immensely effective collaboration across different specialized teams. You can translate between the design team and the engineering team because you understand both the aesthetic goals and the technical constraints.
You can see the bigger picture of a project, not just your tiny corner of it.
Which enables that cross-pollination of ideas. And crucially, the vertical depth ensures that when a complex, specific problem arises within your niche, you are the indispensable expert who provides the final solution.
The synergy is what creates the high compound value. A pure specialist can't communicate their value widely. A pure generalist lacks the technical chops to deliver. The T-shape delivers both.
So the T-shaped model ensures you are neither easily replaceable because of your unique depth, nor too narrow to be useful because of your necessary breadth and communication skills.
That makes a lot of sense. But for students or young professionals starting out focusing on just one single vertical skill and building that 1% mastery, that can feel really risky. What if that skill becomes obsolete in 10 years?
That is a fantastic question, and it's precisely why the strategy for career resilience goes one crucial step further than just defining the T-shape.
Okay.
It involves building what the guide calls career moats through a practice known as talent stacking.
Building a moat. I love that metaphor. You're building a defensive structure around your professional viability.
Exactly. This is where we take those general skills and we combine them into a specific high-value niche that is difficult for others and highly difficult for emerging AI tools to replicate quickly.
So you're leveraging the combination, not the individual parts.
The combination is where the magic is. Let's use the concrete, highly detailed example provided in the source material first because it perfectly illustrates the mechanism.
Okay.
A good writer is common.
Okay, yeah. There are millions of good writers. That skill is a commodity. If that's your only vertical skill, you are in a massive, crowded, and competitive field.
But now consider the stack. A good writer who understands medical terminology and SEO, search engine optimization, is rare and highly paid.
Oh, okay. I see it now.
Why? Well, individually, writing is basic. Medical terminology is just specialized language. SEO is a technical, constantly changing digital marketing skill.
But when you fuse them, you create this tiny, specific pool of talent. The person with that stack can create content that not only adheres to strict medical standards, ensuring accuracy and authority, that's the terminology part,
Right.
but they can also ensure that content ranks highly on Google and reaches the target audience effectively. That's the SEO part. It's a compound value proposition.
Let's provide another example that applies more to the business world. Consider a financial professional, someone who is only great at financial modeling.
That's their vertical depth.
Right. It's a common skill, and increasingly AI can handle basic model generation.
So how do they build a moat around that skill?
They stack. They become a financial modeler who also possesses expert-level public speaking and data visualization skills, and a deep knowledge of global regulatory compliance.
Wow, that immediately changes their value. They're not just crunching numbers in a spreadsheet anymore.
Not at all. They can build a complex model, clearly explain the complex findings to a skeptical board of directors, that's the public speaking and visualization, and ensure the entire strategy adheres to international law. That's the regulatory compliance.
They move from a back office specialist to an indispensable strategic advisor.
One more quick example for the technical and creative fields. A specialist in UX design is great, but a UX designer who also knows basic Python scripting to automate testing and is fluent in Mandarin to directly consult with manufacturing partners in China
Suddenly commands a unique premium. They're not just a designer, they're a bridge. They solve problems across code, design, and supply chain communication.
The takeaway here is to constantly look for those valuable adjacencies. What is your 1% core skill, and what 2 or 3 other complementary skills, whether they're technical, regulatory, or interpersonal, can you stack on top of it to make you indispensable?
This talent stacking strategy secures your career longevity and allows you to command higher earnings, precisely because you have engineered yourself out of the generalist bucket and into a rare, high-demand niche.
Resilience is built not through singular excellence, but through compound value that makes you hard to replicate.
We've covered how to manage your energy for peak daily productivity and how to structure your skills for career resilience. But as we mentioned earlier, none of that is truly sustainable if the base of the triangle, your lifestyle, is unstable. The ultimate essentialist skill is the often ignored aspect of high performance.
This section of the guide might be the most critical because it speaks to the non-negotiable input required for high output. We have to recognize that productivity requires a battery recharge.
It's a physical reality.
It's governed by thermodynamics. You simply cannot drive a car on empty, yet modern professionals routinely attempt to run their minds and bodies on chronic fumes.
I think we have to fundamentally shift our definition of rest. It has to move from being an optional luxury, a reward you get if you finish everything, to a non-negotiable input for success.
Yes, rest is not the absence of work. It is the strategic preparation for future high-quality work.
And the sources provide a remarkably detailed, actionable framework for achieving truly restorative rest, centered primarily on optimizing sleep.
It's called the 10-3-2-1-0 sleep rule.
This is an incredible life hack because it breaks down the science of sleep preparation into 5 measurable actions. It creates these necessary buffer zones between your waking life and your sleep state.
Let's break down each number and explore the rationale behind it, focusing on why these specific buffers are so essential for high-quality, deep, restorative sleep.
Okay, let's start with the biggest number. 10 hours before bed, no more caffeine.
This one often surprises the average listener.
For sure, because they assume that a small afternoon coffee at, say, 3 p.m. wears off in a few hours.
But the biological rationale is crucial here. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors in your brain. Adenosine is the chemical that builds up all day and makes you feel tired.
So caffeine is like putting a block in the keyhole for the sleep signal.
Perfect analogy. And caffeine has a significant half-life. It takes roughly 5 to 7 hours for just half of the caffeine you consume to leave your system.
Only half.
Only half. So if you drink a big coffee at 4 p.m., 10 hours later at 2 a.m., a quarter of that dose is still subtly active in your system, competing for those adenosine receptors.
And even if you feel like you fell asleep fine, it's still having an effect.
Exactly. You might be unconscious, but that residual blockage is preventing you from achieving the deep, restorative, slow-wave sleep cycles. Your sleep quality is degraded. So implementing the 10-hour rule ensures your system is clean when you lie down.
Okay, next. 3 hours before bed, no more food or alcohol. This is a critical buffer zone that relates directly to core body function.
Correct. The body prioritizes survival over rest. If your body is busy digesting a complex meal, your core body temperature rises, and your digestive processes require a lot of energy.
And that interferes with the body's natural cooling process, which is required to initiate and maintain deep sleep.
It does. And alcohol is particularly insidious here, as we briefly mentioned.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on that point because there's this common myth that alcohol helps you sleep. It feels like it does.
It feels like it because it's a sedative. It can induce unconsciousness rapidly, but it severely fragments your sleep architecture. It's not restorative sleep.
What does it actually do to your sleep?
The primary harm is to your REM sleep, rapid eye movement, and your slow wave sleep, which is the deepest, most restorative stage.
So the two most important parts.
The two most important parts. Your body prioritizes metabolizing the alcohol, which it perceives as a toxin, and regulating the subsequent blood sugar roller coaster over entering those restorative phases.
And REM sleep is vital for emotional regulation and memory consolidation.
Absolutely. So if your REM sleep is suppressed, you wake up feeling emotionally raw and cognitively foggy, regardless of how many hours you spent in bed.
Okay, moving on to the cognitive separation. 2 hours before bed, no more work.
This is a psychological buffer zone. It's all about stress hormone management. If you close your laptop and immediately try to sleep, your mind is still spinning.
Oh yeah, it's still running on the last email you sent or the complex problem you were trying to solve.
You are inviting that residual mental drag into bed with you, which raises your cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone. And high cortisol at night is the enemy of sleep. It prevents the deep relaxation needed to initiate rest.
So you need 2 hours for those stress hormones to naturally drop to basal levels.
You do. And then the most commonly violated rule, thanks to our earlier conversation on digital minimalism, 1 hour before bed, no screens, no blue light.
This is a direct biological threat.
It is. The source explicitly states that blue light kills melatonin production. Melatonin is the hormone that signals to your body that it is time to sleep. It's the conductor of your sleep orchestra.
And blue light, which is emitted by phones, tablets, and computers, has this short, high-energy wavelength that mimics daytime sunlight.
So if I'm looking at my phone at 11 p.m., my brain is receiving a signal that's equivalent to, it's noon, stay awake and alert, even if I feel tired.
Exactly. You are artificially delaying and suppressing the natural, necessary rise of melatonin. Removing screens allows that natural signal to occur, ensuring you are primed for sleep when you enter the bed.
Finally, the simplest yet often the most difficult rule to adhere to.
Zero.
The number of times you hit the snooze button in the morning. Hitting snooze just breaks the cycle of restorative sleep. Those 9 minutes of fragmented, low-quality sleep are physiologically terrible.
Why is it so bad? It feels so good.
It feels good for a second, but you're initiating a new sleep cycle only to yank yourself out of it 9 minutes later. This results in something called sleep inertia, that groggy, disoriented feeling that can last for hours.
So it actually makes you more tired.
Far more tired. It trains your brain that the alarm isn't a serious signal, and it often leaves you feeling far worse than if you'd just woken up on the first ring. It's an act of essentialism in the morning, choosing an intentional start over fragmented hesitation.
So implementing the 10-3-2-1-0 rule is essentially engineering your body to maximize its overnight recovery. But rest isn't just about structured sleep. It's also about what you do when you are awake and unoccupied.
That brings us to another brilliant and often overlooked lifestyle hack, particularly necessary in our hyperstimulated world: intentional boredom.
It's the modern ailment, isn't it? We have truly lost the ability to be bored.
Completely. We instantly fill every spare second waiting in line, standing on the bus, sitting at a traffic light, with scrolling through social media or checking alerts.
We actively refuse to leave any mental space unoccupied.
And yet the guide insists that boredom is where creativity is born, which seems counterintuitive when we're constantly trying to feed ourselves more data. Why is boredom so critical to the essentialist model of high performance?
It's all about the underlying neurological mechanism. When we stop filling our minds with external task-oriented stimuli, when we stop scrolling or listening to a podcast or actively reading.
The brain switches from the task-positive network to what scientists call the default mode network, or DMN.
The DMN, what is that?
The DMN is essentially the brain's internal administrative and maintenance mode. It's responsible for critical, non-obvious functions that active concentration prevents. It consolidates memories, it processes complex emotional information, it reflects on past experiences, and most importantly,
What's that?
it makes non-obvious connections between disparate ideas. It's where insight comes from.
I think we all recognize DMN outputs, that great idea you had in the shower, or when your brain finally connects your marketing data to that specific design problem you gave up on hours ago.
Exactly. The DMN is synthesizing information you've already taken in. But if you are constantly inputting new stimulus-heavy information, another headline, another viral video, you perpetually activate your task-positive network.
So you prevent the DMN from ever turning on and doing its critical processing work.
You're always acquiring data, but never integrating and synthesizing it.
It's the difference between collecting building materials and actually assembling the house.
That's a great way to put it. Filling every moment prevents access to this vital state. Allowing yourself to simply stare out the window or take a quiet walk without a phone is an active choice for better, more creative, and more complex thinking.
It's a powerful and freeing realization. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do for your career and creativity is absolutely nothing.
But you must do that nothing intentionally.
It all connects back to the core philosophy of essentialism. Less, but higher quality input leads to higher quality, sustainable output. We've covered a tremendous amount of essential ground today, all focused on escaping the busy trap by applying this disciplined pursuit of less.
We did.
We talked about shifting productivity from fixed time management to controllable energy management, optimizing our deepest work with that 90-20 rule, and implementing digital minimalism to reduce cognitive drag.
We then established the modern career model for resilience, becoming the T-shaped professional by building singular depth alongside strategic breadth.
And securing career longevity by building a moat through talent stacking, combining those commodity skills into a rare, high-value, intersectional niche.
And finally, we gave ourselves the structure for sustainable high performance through the crucial, non-negotiable art of rest.
Using the detailed 10-3-2-1-0 sleep rule and making strategic time for intentional boredom to ignite our creativity and access that powerful default mode network.
All of these pillars, energy management, talent stacking, and intentional rest, they all lead towards sustainable success. But to actually achieve that sustained success, we need to end with the most powerful takeaway provided by the source material. It's the one that governs all of the above.
And what is that?
We must stop obsessing over goals and start focusing on systems over goals.
This distinction is everything. It really is the final piece of the essentialist puzzle. Most people, especially young professionals, we focus entirely on the destination, the goal.
I want to write a book. I want to get a promotion. I want to lose 20 pounds.
Oh, goals. But the core insight here is that goals are only about the destination. They provide direction, but they don't provide the daily process.
Exactly. Systems are about the journey. They are the specific operational processes and the daily habits you execute consistently.
Let's use the writing example again. I want to write a book is the goal, but I will write 500 words every day at 7 a.m. immediately after I eat that frog.
That is the system. That system defines the behavior and ensures relentless consistency, which is the engine of progress.
And the crucial insight is this. Winners and losers often share the exact same goals.
They do. Every athlete on the field shares the goal of winning the championship. Every startup founder shares the goal of making $1 billion. The goal is essentially a shared aspiration. It provides motivation, but not necessarily results.
So the difference, therefore, isn't the ambition, it's the operational systems, the daily processes and habits they employ to get there.
It's the disciplined routine of the 90-minute block, the non-negotiable rest protocol, the strategic time spent on high-value skill stacking. If you focus solely on the goal, you might get a short burst of motivation, but you won't sustain it.
But if you build a lifestyle centered around good habits, if you optimize your systems for daily, predictable, high-quality effort,
the desired results, the goals, will inevitably follow automatically. The system becomes the destination. Mastering your current day guarantees a successful future.
That is a profoundly powerful thought to leave with because it puts the control back into your hands today. Right now, success isn't about achieving some distant milestone. It's about mastering your current habits and processes.
So here is a final provocative thought for you to chew on this week, applying this philosophy directly to your life. We challenge you to identify just one area, productivity, career, or rest, where you are currently trapped in movement instead of making genuine progress.
And once you've identified that area, don't just aspire to a goal. Implement one specific, immediate system from this deep dive tomorrow.
Whether it's setting up your first dedicated, distraction-free 90-minute deep work block or applying the 10-3-2-1-0 rule tonight to engineer your first truly restorative night of sleep.
Start building the system and watch the desired results take care of themselves.